A reading from the book of Joshua. Today is July 12th. Our reading from Joshua is chapter 6. Now Jericho was shut up tight because of the Israelites. No one could leave or enter. The Lord said to Joshua, "See, I will deliver Jericho and her king and her warriors into your hands. Let all your troops march around the city and complete one circuit of the city. Do this 6 days with 7 priests carrying 7 ram's horns preceding the ark. On the 7th day, march around the city 7 times with the priests blowing the horns. And when a long blast is sounded on the horn, as soon as you hear that sound of the horn, all the people shall give a mighty shout. Thereupon the city wall will collapse, and the people shall advance, every man straight ahead." Joshua son of Nun summoned the priests and said to them, "Take up the ark of the covenant and let 7 priests carrying 7 ram's horns precede the ark of the Lord." And he instructed the people, "Go forward, march around the city with the vanguard marching in front of the ark of the Lord." When Joshua had instructed the people, the 7 priests carrying the 7 ram's horns advanced before the Lord, blowing their horns, and the ark of the Lord's covenant followed them. The vanguard marched in front of the priests who were blowing the horns, and the rear guard marched behind the ark with the horns sounding all the time. But Joshua's orders to the rest of the people were, "Do not shout, do not let your voices be heard, and do not let a sound issue from your lips until the moment that I command you. Shout, then you shall shout." So he had the ark of the Lord go around the city and complete one circuit. Then they returned to the camp and spent the night in camp. Joshua rose early the next day, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord, while the 7 priests bearing the 7 ram's horns marched in front of the ark of the Lord, blowing the horns as they marched. The vanguard marched in front of them, and the rear guard marched behind the ark of the Lord, with the horns sounding all the time. And so they marched around the city once on the 2nd day and returned to the camp. They did this 6 days. On the 7th day, they rose at daybreak and marched around the city in the same manner 7 times. That was the only day that they marched around the city 7 times. On the 7th round, as the priests blew the horns, Joshua commanded the people, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city. The city and everything in it are to be prescribed for the Lord. Only Rahab the harlot is to be spared, and all who are with her in the house, because she hid the messenger we sent. But you must beware of that which is prescribed, or else you will be prescribed. If you take anything from that which is prescribed, you will cause the camp of Israel to be prescribed. You will bring calamity upon it. All the silver and gold and objects of copper and iron are consecrated to the Lord. They must go into the treasury of the Lord." So the people shouted when the horns were sounded. When the people heard the sound of the horns, the people raised a mighty shout, and the wall collapsed. The people rushed into the city, every man straight in front of him, and they captured the city. They exterminated everything in the city with the sword, man and woman, young and old, ox and sheep and ass. But Joshua bade the 2 men who had spied out the land, "Go into the harlot's house and bring out the woman all that belongs to her, as you swore to her." So the young spies went in and brought out Rahab, her father and her mother, her brother, and all that belonged to her. They brought her out, her whole family, and left them outside the camp of Israel. They burned down the city and everything in it, but the silver and gold and the objects of copper and iron were deposited in the treasury of the house of the Lord. Only Rahab the harlot and her father's family were spared by Joshua, along with all that belonged to her, and she dwelt among the Israelites, as is still the case, for she had hidden the messenger that Joshua sent to spy out Jericho. At that time Joshua pronounced this oath, "Cursed of the Lord be the man who shall undertake to fortify this city of Jericho. He shall lay its foundations at the cost of his firstborn, and set up its gates at the cost of his youngest." The Lord was with Joshua, and his fame spread throughout the land.